Hi, besties. It's Amir Yas. You're back with the Vault podcast. And I'm here with my girl, Monica, and my friend, Jodie Sweetin. When she followed me on Instagram, can I tell you guys that was the best day of my life? I was like, is this the real? Is this Stephanie Tanner? Is this for real? Is this the Full House actress? Like, I was just like in glee. Like, I was showing people because I was like, this can't be her. Why is she following me?
No, well, I mean, it was before AI really took over things. So yeah, you had like at least a 7 in 10 chance of it being me and not someone in like some sort of cyber criminal overseas. So yeah, so you won. It was actually me, and you didn't lose all of your money in Target gift cards. So good job.
That's true. I didn't fall for any scams.
Yeah, great job.
I didn't fall for any scams. That is so funny. And I was like, okay, she's gonna unfollow me in a couple of days. And then you did it. And then I DM'd you and we started talking, and it was just so natural. So I don't get starstruck. I mean, I've worked with all the celebrities. I was a PR. You're taught not to get starstruck, but I was a little starstruck. So thank you for that.
Oh my God. Oh, and that's so funny to hear, because I'm like, so not that person. I'm like, it's a thing. Whatevs. We can, yeah, so it's very cute to hear that you were starstruck.
Yeah, I was definitely starstruck. I mean, to start right from the top, I want to talk to you about, obviously being a child actor. It's such a, as someone who worked in the industry, I've worked with a lot of children and their agents and their parents. And it's like, it's a tough world. And we see it, with Macaulay Culkin and other, child actors, that it's been a really tough battle. How did you navigate all of that? Like, you're, for lack of a better word, quote unquote, normal now. Like,
right. Yeah. I will say it's because I had very normal parents. I had, my mom was with me on set every day, and she wanted none of the fame. Like, neither of my parents would ever want to perform or speak in public, nothing. So they knew it was what I loved. When I was really little, I said I wanted to do it, and I took to it, and I thrived. And so, my parents were like, I grew up in Orange County. I grew up, going to public school. Like, I just kind of had a normal life. And I always thought, like, I have this job, but the only difference is that, like, other people see my job, but it doesn't make it any more important than anybody else's job that you don't see every day, and I just kind of always grew up with that mindset. My dad, was he was from Oklahoma with no education, and worked his way up in blue collar jobs. And so, I just learned, like, it's way easier to be normal, like, and that my parents really instilled that in me, and also are just very normal, down to earth people themselves.
That's fabulous. I mean, I think that makes a huge difference, because, you saw with Drew Barrymore, her parents were kind of like wackadoo. And I think it really starts to kind of affect how you get.
I've seen those kids and those parents. They'll breeze through on a guest star here and there, and you're just like, oh no, like, and you see it particularly as an adult. Then, like, when you see some kid come and do a couple episodes on the show, and you see the parent that's with them, and you're just like, this is so, and then you hear some of the stories, like, that they're talking about wanting their kid to be famous, and you just go, this is so bad. Like, this is just so fucked. Oh, sorry. I don't know if we can.
No, you're fine.
Okay, good. Oh, thank God. Oh, but yeah, it was so fucked, and you're just like, oh my God, this is that sick part of it. And I grew up on a set where nobody was like that at all. None, cast, crew, no, we were all just kind of like there having a good time. So I know that that's the exception and not the rule, and I'm always very grateful for that, because I think it's a reason that I still love being in this business.
That's amazing. And we can see it in your personality. You are so humble, so down to earth.
Thanks.
And we thank you for that, because, we've had other guests that are not as famous and they're divas, but we thank you for that.
Oh,
I'm starstruck.
Absolutely.
I'm starstruck. I'm gonna say,
don't be. Don't be.
Absolutely.
I am not that cool or coordinated. I broke my toe last night in the middle of the night. So, like, I don't.
Gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
painful.
a total clumsy nerd.
Are you okay? Because I know how painful that can
God,
be.
it was like the pinky toe, where you just kind of go,
Well, we don't really. Okay.
cool. And you just like, I just got to tape it to the one next to it. And, anyway. I've
You
broken
are
Oh my
things.
wonderful. With the
gosh,
broken
you
toe, the
know,
fires in LA,
Please.
you
Oh my
showed
amazing.
God,
up.
please.
You
I
showed up
no,
for
I
us.
have, and
Please.
Like, you're amazing. Yeah.
the trauma that I've been through. Yeah, no, I am simply here witnessing and trying to figure out where I can best support the fires here in
Yes,
LA.
absolutely.
So yeah. My
Thank you
broken
for
toe
that.
is nothing, I would say. But for me it was pretty fucking painful. So anyway,
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah. It's not a, pain Olympics, but I will say
It's up there.
I
Yeah.
got like a 5.2 maybe,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not too bad. I grew up watching Full House every Friday night. That was my show. So that show was a part of my childhood. Um, how did the fame affect your sense of identity?
Oh gosh, I think because I was never like I never watched the show. I never watched myself
Mhm.
on anything I did. I never thought it was like some big deal that I was on TV. I just was like just kind of like everybody else. So, it was an interesting way to grow up because it was really, so many people assume something about you before they meet you.
Mhm.
And and then add on top of that this layer of me being adopted when I was like 14 months old. And so I think also that sense that all teenagers go through of like, who am I? Where am I? Who do I look like? What am I? What do I act like? That the sense of identity, like at 13, I lost the show and was trying to figure out sort of who I was in comparison to my parents who were raising me versus what I knew about my biological family. So I had a lot of stuff, I think, going on anyway. I always say I think I would have had some of my struggles regardless of being on TV or not, but it definitely added a whole other thing to it of who am I outside of who people think I am, and then trying to figure out, okay, well, maybe I know who that person is, but then who am I really? Like, what do I want? Who do I act like? What do I, all those sorts of things. So
Mhm.
it was, yeah, I think my sense of identity, it really, it was highlighted in a way, growing up in this business, uh, that I don't think is, there for everyone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's with I think the adoption, bringing that into it with what was the process of getting in touch did you get in touch with your biological parents at a certain age
No,
or?
I haven't been in touch with them. I know of them because it was sort of family friends adoption that my parents adopted me, and they knew my biological parents, but they were both one was in jail and one was in prison when I was born, so they were in and out of jail a lot. And so, all I ever knew about them was a lot of negative stuff. And so it was this kind of weird thing hanging over my head of like, well, am I that? Or
Mm.
and I think that happens a lot with children who are even grow up with parents who are addicts. It's the fear of either, oh my God, I'm never touching it because of who they are, or oh, that's who I'm destined to be. And so,
Mm.
I think that was just this weird sense of connection. I guess I always that I kind of have come to figure that out in years of therapy, but it was, I think, a sense of like, okay, that's all I know about them. So at least in that way, I know I also have a problem with substances too, So
Mm.
I think it took me a long time to kind of separate those things and really figure out me.
Right.
So
You as the individual, you're not that
yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah.
Understandable. When did because we know you've had struggles with addiction and drugs and alcohol. When did that start and who introduced you to it?
I mean, it was Around that time in high school, around like I was a year younger than everyone in my grade. I had skipped a grade in elementary, and so I started high school. I was 13, and I again was, people assumed that I was going to come in and be this obnoxious sort of stuck up person. And so I think there was also a thing of like, oh, if I drink and party even more than everybody else, like then they'll see I don't think I'm better than them, And it started as like sneaking Budweisers and some Marlboros, to the park from somebody's stepdad's garage, and it wasn't like I was really doing anything like really hard until I got like to college. But my high school, particularly the last year and a half of my high school ordeal, I got good grades, but my parents were terrified to let me out of the house because I just always seemed to find the problem. Turns out the problem was me. So yeah.
When you realize that, did you like get help, or was there like an intervention, or do you feel like you just kind of hit like rock bottom?
The first time I got sober, I've had a few rounds of it, I mean, when the first time I got sober, I was barely 18. And so, that was one sort of thing that happened. And I kind of did that, through 12-step programs and on my own, and moving back to my parents' house and being in college. And and then it was like, oh, maybe I'm okay after, my 21st birthday. Like, no, maybe I was just young and stupid. And like, oh, no, well, it's, and then another couple years of really going crazy. And, people are always like, oh, where were you doing such awful drugs? And I'm like, the people that really introduced me to a lot of the harder drugs I was doing were people that worked at banks and managers and who had nice houses and families and were not, what people think of as addicts. And so, I think that's one thing that I've always shared, because I think the assumption is that there's like, you look like it, you know what I mean? There's something that, and so, it was just kind of that slow thing of, the more you find yourself in problematic situations, the more you start increasing those things and and doing stupider and stupider stuff. So, it was, it's been a hell of a journey for sure. But,
Wow.
Once I had my own kids, I think that changed a lot of perspective for me.
That's
I
amazing.
could see that. I could see that, and even in the gay community, that's like drugs and alcohol is so normalized. And the people that are like super successful, they're like fully functioning and they're doing all the drugs,
And they're
like
right.
meth. I mean, that's a big thing in the gay community.
A huge, oh yeah, I've spoken at many a 12-step meeting specifically for meth, and here in West Hollywood. So I've spoken at a lot of gay meetings. And I will be honest, there are a lot of the gay men in 12-step programs saved my fucking life. And still some of my dearest friends are people that I have met in the program, some wonderful gay male friends of mine who I could trust with my life. And so yeah, it's I understand greatly some of the struggles that community goes through, and particular the fact that it's just such a hard it's such a hard addiction to break. And you're so judged for it. Like people are so like, ew. And add on top of that LGBTQ hatred, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's not easy. So I've tried to be open about it because I want to break the stigma of it and break the assumption that, it's a certain kind of person. So.
Absolutely. Your time working at these sober houses, because I know you worked your way up to become a director at some point, right? Of a sober house.
Yeah. I was a director of operations for a company out here that has since closed, and it was a shit show that I will not mention. But I left before things came out and got really bad. But yeah, I worked my way up. I was, I had a staff of about 100 people under me, and hired and fired people, and had a very quote unquote normal existence and lived in a little 1-bedroom apartment with my kids, and just kind of, and I was really happy. What I found working in treatment, starting at $8-10 an hour, emptying trash cans and talking to new clients and washing dishes, was that I learned how to not that I ever was like a stuff materialistic kind of person, but I learned how to be content with myself. Driving an old piece of shit Toyota that somebody gave to me because I got in a car accident and couldn't afford a new car and was working for a little bit. It was I was like, I'm gonna be okay. And then I worked my way up to being a director of ops and found that I had a whole other skill set that I had never really tapped into. And when I directed and moved back into entertainment, I found that so much of that helped me in my confidence of being like, no, I can run things. I'm capable of this. I'm not just someone who's was a child actor and never had any life experience, and I'm really grateful for that. And I still have some amazing, amazing friends, and even my husband, who I have met through working in treatment. And if I wasn't continuing to do acting and entertainment, I would 100% probably be back in treatment or some sort of mental health work.
Absolutely. To rise to a position of director of operations indicates that you clearly have the skill sets, and that's amazing, getting that opportunity. But
Yeah.
I want to pivot for a minute because I know you're an activist for the LBGQT plus community.
Mm-hmm.
And I know your former co-star Candice and you have gotten into it because her views differ drastically.
Well, yeah, and what's funny is that we never actually got into it. That what I mean. She posted a sort of her viewpoint, and I posted mine, and we've always been very different on those things. And I think it was just that now all of that sort of comes to the surface more, and people, for me, I find that if I can be of service or help uh, with whatever gift I've been given of people paying attention, that it is required of me to do something important with that, you know. And for me, something important is looking out for my queer siblings that I love, and the family that's out there that doesn't need more shit added on. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think, obviously everyone can have their opinions. And in Hollywood, like, because I have that experience working as a publicist, people are not always as open-minded and democratic as you
right.
would
People
think.
assume it's a bunch of liberals. You're like, not everybody. There's
Not
a substantial
not
amount.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that also factors in. But how do you think, for me, there was times where I had to work with someone that was, for lack of a better word, anti-queer. And I had to kind of deal with, and I'm not saying Candice is anti-queer. I'm just saying, she's making a lot of pivots, like her network, she's not doing any gay films. Like, that's fine. But like, how do you think that sometimes when you're doing, you guys do the signings, like you just had an event for Bob Saget, so you're just kind of cordial, but you guys are not friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, I think Candice and I we've lived very different lifestyles. We just exist in sort of very different worlds, but she is still someone who I've known since I was 5 years old. So it's like, it's like family members where you're like, maybe we don't talk all the time. And I know that like, if politics comes up, it is not gonna go well. But I don't hate you. And I'm not gonna, not hug you. But I am also not gonna keep my mouth shut. So that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. Is like, look, you don't want to follow or whatever. That's cool. But like, I'll be nice, but I will not be quiet. So
yes. And you said something eloquent on your story. You said, art is like how do you not know about art? Like, tell us how you know. I mean, you were speaking about her, but I mean, everyone's done that. But because you
To be
guys are
honest,
public
I actually
figures,
wasn't even speaking
oh, you
about
weren't.
her.
Oh,
No, that's
Oh,
the funny,
okay.
like there was already like something that had happened where, we went very divergent paths on, I don't know, something we said. And then I saw the Olympics thing and I saw all these people like freaking out about it. And I was like, oh my God, tell me you know nothing about art history without telling me you know that. And then everyone was like, she came for Candace. And I was like, what the? And
Yeah.
I literally went, I was like getting a massage or something. I went in, I came out to all of this and I was like, what did I? Oh, oh God. And I was just like, well, I guess that's it.
Candace, we better take
Like,
your
and I
phone
was like,
away.
right. I was like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not changing anything I said. So yeah, but it was, it was one of those things where it was not an intentional like dig, but it was still very much what I wanted to say.
right. And
Yeah.
you're an activist, and you've been very clear about that from the beginning. And that's one of the things I always liked about you, because I remember with that, I was just like, wow, like, because it's nice when people speak up that kind of don't have to, because
Right.
we're tired of always having to do our own work. So I think it's nice when someone does it for us. We're like, oh, that was
Absolutely.
nice. Thank you for taking the load,
Well,
So
yeah, it's like, when in the mutual aid or work that I've tried to do, I always am really cognizant of like, look, every one of these things might not be my story, but I'm here to support while the people whose stories that it is lead and tell me what they need,
Absolutely.
and yeah.
Mhm. That makes
That,
a lot of sense.
that's
It
the
does.
mature way of handling things. But the internet, they said, well, they're not friends. Candace unfollowed her and
Well, yeah. Well, she unfollowed me. I mean, I'm, I
you're still
sometimes can be,
following.
gonna unfollow anybody. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't. I don't live my life
Right.
based on like social media. I just, I think it can be used for some great things. I also think it can be really negative and full of a lot of shit, particularly these days.
Mhm.
But yeah, like, unfollow me. Don't
It's fine.
follow me. I don't. It's whatevs. You know what I mean? Like, people announce their departure. I'm unfollowing. I'm like, cool, bye. I don't. Like,
Oh God.
great.
I, s-
Anita
I
from
s-
fucking Wyoming. I don't know you. Like,
right.
so anyway. And if other people that I do know have unfollowed me because of what I passionately believe in, then we're just very different people.
Yeah. Well, around that time, I think people are funny. I saw a TikTok of a woman, and now again announcing that she was unfollowing you. After I was like, okay. I don't think she
Yeah.
cares. You're in a Costco parking lot saying you're unfollowing her. I don't
Right.
think
And you
Jodie's
know what?
on
The
her
best part
radar.
is I've never been on TikTok. I have a
Mhm.
TikTok account that
Mhm.
someone posted before. I've never watched a TikTok. I've never gone on it. And
Love it.
I'm like an old lady now at these days, but I'm so glad because I know I would have been absolutely hooked. Instagram was hard enough to like sort of break up with at times.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's so important that we have like conversations with people and that we make known who we are uh, and if that doesn't work for you, and it's usually on the internet, because usually when you have these conversations face to face, people have a much different experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was gonna say, with this whole like social media of it all, I wanted to ask you, like, when you were on Full House, how do you think you would have navigated having
Oh my
like social
God.
media? I think it would have been really hard.
I would not want to be a child actor
Mhm.
since the
Mhm.
advent of social media. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want my kids to do it. I think that so much pressure is put on these young people.
Mhm.
I know it is so much pressure, and it's so hard just to deal with the people that you actually come into direct contact with who might be assholes. You know what I mean? Or who might be rude or whatever. But most people are not. But
Mhm.
on the internet, most people are fucking awful. And so you start absorbing that and thinking that that is the experience. And you're young, you're, teenager, early 20s, even up to like 30s. You're going to human beings, you're going to do stupid shit. You're going to do stupid shit. And particularly at a young age. And, we're just, we hold so many young people in the public eye to such a standard that doesn't allow them to learn and grow. And I think we do that to a lot of people, but I as a young actor, I would not want to be out there doing this.
It has to be hard. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't, if you have a drug addiction or you drink. Back in the day, you could hide that for a good amount of time before People magazine or the National Enquirer saw it and had photos of it. I mean, now it's instant. Everything is instant. And the scary thing about
everything is instant and out of context.
Yeah,
So
yes,
it's the 30-second clip is very different from the 15, and it just depends on which one you see, and so it's just like I try and remember that it's very easy to get angry, but it takes a little more brain space to try and reason and understand. Yeah, exactly. And nuance does not exist on the internet. Nuance doesn't exist in a 30-second reel. It's very misleading, I think.
Absolutely. So cancel culture today, I feel for these young actors. What are your thoughts on cancel culture as it relates to Hollywood today?
I think in some ways, the pendulum swung really far the other way, and we all became hyper aware and hyper. I can't say hypersensitive, but I think it became like that was we knew it was there, and so now everything was reflecting back at us the problems or the hate or the thing that shouldn't be said or whatever. And I think, like I said, I think when you have face-to-face conversations with people, it's absolutely different. I just recently watched Will and Harper, which is the documentary of Will Ferrell and his best friend who transitioned, Harper, and they go on a cross-country road trip, and there's a couple heartbreaking moments, but there's a lot of moments in there that you watch and you go, oh shit. I think it's the internet. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's the distance. I think it's the ability to say something with impunity and not be able to see the person face to face,
Right.
And
no consequences, right? There's no consequences. You can say whatever. No. I mean, people have threatened to slit my throat, and I'm like a nobody. I'm like, really? Okay, great.
And it's awful. But that being said, I think a lot of the steps forward that we made in terms of gender expression and language and being misogyny and how the Me Too movement really took off, and it was known that, like, no, this is across the board, like, this is happening to women. I think we made a lot of progress there, and I think that the people who got canceled, who refused to own up to anything, or who just doubled down on their, like, that's just what I said, like, I don't know. I just I think that social media, we double down on the worst things that we could possibly do, and instead of taking a step back sometimes and being like, okay, wait, let me think or evaluate, even whether it's you that fucked up or somebody else, like, now there, nobody stops and goes, okay, hold on, let me calm down. It's like, what, I'm going to tweet right back, and I think we need to remember that it's okay to call people out on behavior, but it's not okay to not allow them to grow through it. And
Fair
that
point.
doesn't mean that everyone is worthy of that. And that doesn't mean that there are a lot of people who are willing to do it. But I think we need to really be cognizant of the people who are like, oh, I didn't know, or because I think we'll actually find that a lot of those people we might be able to include in some of the fight for what we need and what we want. And then there's a lot of people that
Absolutely.
just fuck them and they're like, right wing MAGA nuts, and
Right.
suck it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of those people are listening to this podcast, but if you are,
No.
yeah, I said suck it. But um, but yeah, like that's yeah. I'll stop.
No, you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right, and they can suck it. I co-sign that. But you know what it is? It's not even if you voted for Trump. It's not about that for me. It's about like doubling down on the hate. And I've had a lot of people say really horrible things and then kind of come back, and we had a dialogue and they were able to kind of get to a normal place. That's
Right.
fine. But if you're gonna double down on like, I don't know, you're gay and Muslim, I hope you rot in hell. Like, where are we gonna go from there?
Where are we gonna where like okay, what now? There's no conversation in that. And yeah, and it's I think when we actually have the opportunity to have a conversation, that's very different than what happens on the internet,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Hmm. So, needless to say, you don't respond to the hate, the criticism. You just
Oh
let it
no,
fly.
I do sometimes. I
Oh,
used
okay.
to a lot more than I did. I used to, particularly during the pandemic, because I had time for that. So then it was a lot of things, and I will. Um, I won't. I don't ever go onto someone else's page to talk shit. I just don't do that. If you come on my page, then you've
Mhm.
knocked on my door. And you
Mhm.
came and knocked on my door. I opened it and you said some wild shit to me. So now I got to say something back to you. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. You came and went, hello, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I got something
Good
to say to
point.
you. Well, okay. I have something to say back. Get the fuck out of my house. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's the
That
thing. But
part.
like the people that literally come to my page or that follow me just to hate follow me, I'm like, why would you do that? Like, it's just so it
Mhm.
seems
My
so,
God.
so weird. Yeah. I just wouldn't.
It's like, what is happening? And I'm sometimes I'm like, I wish I had a product to sell because I had this guy following me and writing nasty comments, and I thought he was just coming to write the nasty comment, but he's been following me. That's
Yeah,
what I don't get. Like, if I upset you that much, he's like, I hate your voice,
right.
I hate your face, I hate your.
Right, right,
You
right.
hate everything. Why are you here?
Well, and the best thing is that the more that they comment on your shit, the more that they're going to see you, because the rules of the algorithm are that
Mhm.
everything you mention you get more of, and everything you engage with you get more of. So yeah, I bet
Absolutely.
you are sick of my face because you keep coming on here to say something. Yeah.
You keep coming on here, and I hate to do this to you, but I just can't, in this situation I can't help but think of your iconic phrase. How rude. It's really how
How
rude.
rude indeed. Yeah,
Indeed. Like,
it
leave
is
me be.
unnecessary. Yeah, no, Stephanie Tanner says how rude to all the bullshit.
It's good. Sorry I had to do that to you, but we had to
Oh
work
my
that in.
god,
So
no, are you kidding? I mean, I always joke that I tell people all the time, I'm like, "It's gonna be on my urn." It's just it's etched into everything. It is literally, it'll be probably my last words. I'm surprised it wasn't my first, but,
I
yeah,
love it.
Wow.
it will follow me forever, and I absolutely don't hate that because Stephanie was a really fun character to play.
Really
That's
fun. I
awesome.
mean, she seems so wonderful, and I always related to her so much. I mean, I was never the middle kid, but I just love, like, I had a lot of those feelings, so I
Yeah,
really identified with her a lot. So speaking of the, Full House, and obviously you had Fuller House, which was wonderful. For me as a millennial, like a geriatric millennial, to get that,
right.
like, that was so iconic. So who on that cast, like, if you get a flat tire, are you calling? Like, who are we calling
Oh,
if you get a flat tire?
probably. Well, Andrea couldn't help me change the tire, but she and I would have a ridiculous time laughing about it while we tried to do it. As far as people who are really capable of things, I would say Dave Coulier, who
Okay.
played Joey, but he lives in Michigan. So I'd be waiting a really long time for him to come fix a flat tire for me. Um, Anybody else, yeah, I feel like they'd be like, oh, I can call someone for you. You know what I mean? Like that, they would, yeah. But AB would be there while I'm trying to change the tire, just laughing at me the whole time. So
And
yeah,
cracking you up. I love it. How is
exactly.
Dave Coulier doing? Have you talked to him? I know he came out with, his cancer diagnosis, and then John Stamos did the bald cap that seemed to
Right.
be like international news.
Yes.
But yeah, so have you talked to Dave?
I haven't talked to him in the last couple of weeks, but we had a kind of our little group chat going today. As far as I know, he's doing actually pretty well considering everything. I mean, his sense of humor really helps get him through a lot, and his amazing wife, Melissa, who I just love and adore. She is, his rock, and his son, Luke. So, I know that he's being really well taken care of and has a lot of really wonderful family and friends around him. But yeah, I wish I could see him easier, but, being in Michigan, it makes things a little bit hard. I mean, other than FaceTime. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Sure. Lori Loughlin.
Mm-hmm.
Aunt Becky. Loved her. Loved her. What was your reaction when she faced the controversy with the whole college admin drama?
It was that thing where people can make disappointing decisions, but I also, there's also, I have some feelings about other things that I that are related that I won't go into to that particular situation. But I love Lori, and I know that she loves her kids, and I know that there are a lot of really wealthy people abuse the system, and that's not okay. And I also know that she really did a lot of work when she was, serving her sentence, and has really grown in a lot of ways. But, I would never do, people were like, wouldn't you do that? I was like, no, I don't. And I don't do it now. If my, natural consequences, they're a motherfucker. You know what I mean? You didn't do the work and you didn't get the thing.
Right.
That's how life works, but
It does.
I think, I think in a lot of ways, in this sort of weird late stage capitalism thing, it doesn't work that way for a lot of people, because if you can sort of buy your way out of a lot of the problems, then it doesn't affect you, and I don't think that's how we should live in the world. It's like, if I have the money, I can buy my way above you.
It's not great.
Yeah. I know that,
and
I know a lot of the background of the situation, things that I won't go into, but it adds some shades of color to it. But I love Lori, and I've really seen her grow a lot. And again, that thing of somebody that you love that does something that you're really like disappointed in, but it doesn't mean that you don't love them or don't have any understanding or empathy for, like, what it's like to make bad decisions in your life. Because I know I made a lot, and I made a lot of terrible decisions, and I was never excommunicated, and did some hurtful things and was never told that I wasn't part of the family. So, I can love people. Some I can love from further away. And some, I can love in a lot different, closer ways, because we share a lot more. But I just think I think it's unfortunate that we live in a world where that is just so commonplace, that so many people do it, that it's almost like they don't even know that you shouldn't.
Especially at USC, because I went there, and even before Lori, they were doing this. They've been doing stuff like that. So she's not the first one to do it.
I had friends who played football there. I was like, I know you ain't got the grades. I applied. I got better grades than you, but you were a good football player, and it happens all the time. It happens if you have the money. It happens if you have the athletic talent. It happens all the time. And but it doesn't make it okay or acceptable. And you know, we live in a world where we should have so many opportunities. We've come so far in so many ways, that to continue to shut people out, it blows my mind, because there's plenty for everyone. You know?
Yeah. Such compassion. I like that answer. You do. Compassionate person.
Thank you. It makes the world hard sometimes.
Yes, because the world doesn't really sometimes, what is it? Like, they don't uplift that. They don't see that as, but that's why we need more people like us.
Right. Well, they don't uplift it, and it also can often make you walk through the world and just feel like a consistent gut punch when you look around and you see so many things that could be not easily fixed, but could be fixed with consistent work and funding. But we put our proverbial money where our mouths are, and it sure is in education and healthcare. So
absolutely, that part.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Even even with the fires in LA, they took $25 million from the firefighters and gave it to the LAPD.
To the LAPD. They don't need more money. They don't need more. Somebody broke into the house down the street. There were 17 cop cars that showed up.
No, you don't need that many cops.
And I get it. It's my neighbor. Like, it's a break-in, very serious. Somebody was home, so they freaked out. But I can guarantee you that, like, you're not getting that response in a neighborhood that doesn't look like this one.
No.
And the response you are getting, it might put you in danger, And so it just, I think it's the inequity of things that just really is like, God, we could do so much better, and we don't. And we don't. Right. And there are a few people who really could do better for the world and just do everything to make it fucking worse. Elon Musk, I'm looking at you.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's, and that's why the world is hard sometimes, because you go, God, is it making a difference? But I have to trust that I can have a small impact on something or someone that maybe will float its way up or around and make things better.
Absolutely. Being like an image of, like, where your kids can look up to you. Like, how has that been navigating? You had a contentious divorce, and there was some ups and downs and a restraining order, and, like, we don't have to get into all the specifics, but what I loved is the way, like, your grace and all of that. Like, how did you navigate all of that, for lack of a better word, bullshit?
I think the only time that the bullshit really bothers me, and the attention on that sort of stuff really bothers me, is when it affects my kids, or when they had to feel put in the middle, or, in regards to certain situations, to feel unsafe, or to, feel like they were sort of exposed or out there. But again, I look at things like, I'm not the first person in the entertainment industry, especially, to have a few divorces and, and a few failed relationships. And it's human. It's human. I think walking through that stuff and being like, okay, what is the thing that a year from now I'm going to realize I got from this? And I got a lot of things from a lot of the most painful situations in my life, were some of the biggest turning points for things, because nobody changes when they're comfortable. You do it when you're fucking miserable. And so oftentimes at the point when I am most miserable, comes the greatest opportunity for something to be different.
Absolutely.
That's a great answer. I was going to say, with that, situation, how about the co-parenting? Like, are you guys in, like, a place to co-parent? Like,
so I have my two daughters, who are 16 and 14, both in high school now, and they have two different dads. So, that makes it's a very modern family, if you will. But, it's and we do our best, and sometimes we're great at it, and then sometimes, one of us gets our back up about something, and it's not which you do whether you're together or not. So, it's hard. It's hard to sometimes parent your kid when your kid is doing something that reminds you of your ex. It's hard to go to your ex about something your kid is doing at your house that they don't do at the other person's house. Like there's all these dynamics that come into play, and it makes it difficult. And so I'd love to say that we were like kumbaya and we have, joint holidays and stuff, but that's not the case. But we get along. We show up at at the events, sports things, theater performances, graduations, whatever. We're there and we have fun and we can laugh and we can talk and we can get along. And things are really a lot better now. I mean, it's been 10 and 16 years, I would hope it progressed by now.
Mhm.
Otherwise we need to have some conversations. But yeah, it's hard, but no harder than just raising teenagers in general, or kids, people in general. Shit's hard. It's really hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it sounds like you're handling it so maturely, which
I have my moments,
okay.
when
Okay.
I
Yeah.
can talk it through, I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is actually how I'm handling stuff. But, I have my moments where I'm just like, crying, like I'm doing everything wrong. Everything that I could possibly
Mhm.
do
Of
is
course.
just terrible and wrong. Um,
Of course.
and then I eat
Yeah.
some chocolate and I tend to feel better.
You feel better. Yeah. But it sounds like your daughters will look up to you and be proud of you.
I
You
hope
know?
so.
I think so. I
Yeah.
really feel that way. I
I
do.
do. I think that, and my girls and I have a good relationship. We've had, our ups and downs like moms and teenage daughters do. Oh, good Lord. The pandemic was not cute around here. I had a middle schooler and it was, it's not pretty.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I do think, I do know that my kids have seen me make hard decisions and do things that maybe people would judge, but that were important to me. And that's what I hope to instill in them. Whatever it is that is important to them, I just want them to be willing to stand up for it, regardless of what someone else says.
I love
Mhm.
that. Beautiful. Yeah. And they will. I mean, you're an inspiration. You're one tough cookie. You don't play any games, just like me. I mean, I can just tell from one tough cookie to
Yeah, yeah,
another,
yeah. That's true.
you
Yeah.
know, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
It really, really is. And I know it takes a lot of hard work to get there, but I believe you're there.
You're
You're living in it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Pat
have
yourself on the
I
back.
really done a lot of work and come to a place where I'm like, it's actually pretty good.
You can tell.
Mhm.
You can
Yeah,
tell.
Mhm.
You
it's
can
actually
tell that
pretty
you're
good.
doing the work. We can see it and we can observe it. And I would be remiss to not bring up Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. Any interaction with them recently, or
I haven't seen them since Bob's memorial, but they both live East Coast and go back and forth between Europe, and they're in their sort of world. And also, one thing I always say about it, people are like, "Oh, did they just not want to be a part of the family?" Like, no, it's not that. I said, but for me and the kids, quote unquote, above me and the adults, I was 5. So like 5 to 13 were like my growing up years. They were infants to like 7.5.
Mhm.
What really do you remember of the years of your life of 7 and before? And if you didn't
Mhm.
see those people that you saw every day when you were 5, and then they come back 20 years later, like you'll be like, "Oh, hi, oh my god, we had so many, I love you, like so many memories." But it's not like I don't, it's,
Mhm.
we live a very different life.
Right.
And I mean, they're ridiculously incredibly talented designers and have like moved on sort of in the fashion world. So it's, we live very different lives. But
Mhm.
I love them, and we were super close as kids. I mean, I find pictures all the time of them spending weekends at my house when we were on the show together and playing dress up, and just, some really great memories with them. And I hope that in some ways I was able to make it a little bit more fun and like having an older sister on set for them, you know?
Absolutely. That's great. What advice would you, knowing and going through everything you've gone through, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, gosh, my younger, I would say stop worrying what other people think and trying to be cool because nobody's cool and everyone is worrying about themselves. Like, I watch my teenagers go through it and I, see young people out there and they're so like the outer presentation is everything. And, I'm going to be 43 in a couple weeks. And I'm like, that's not the important shit at all. So, I think learning the value of what's important, but I also think I kind of did along the way, and at the like appropriate age. I mean, your brain's not really cooked till you're like 25 or 26 anyway. So, I was like in my early 30s till I got it together. It was a slight delay, but not too bad.
You're doing great, sweetie. That's like me
Yes.
too. I didn't figure it out. Like I'm 38. I don't know
No,
if I've still figured it out. Who knows?
I wake up most days and I look at my house and I look at my kids and I'm like, oh God, it's me. I'm
Mhm.
in charge. I have to do these things. I don't know what to do, like, and yeah, and I think it's never too late to like just start off in a new direction. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do something different.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love that.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it's wonderful. And, this being the Vault podcast, we like to open the vault and we give our guests an opportunity to share. You're a new co host on Jeff Lewis Live. If there's any tea there, you can share with us, or, your time on Dancing with the Stars or Full House, whatever you want to tell us, something that maybe you haven't shared anywhere.
Well, I will say that my friend Val from Dancing with the Stars, who I did the switch up week with, I run into him every time I'm at the gym or at Erewhon. So it's really like I'm not stalking him, but it certainly looks that way. But let's see. Oh gosh, the tea. The chump tea. I will say
Mhm.
that a lot of chumps came out to visit me on at Christmas Con. So that was lovely. Um oh gosh. I don't really have any like tea. Plus Jeff would kill me. No,
You would.
no. No, he wouldn't. He would just shred me on the internet. But yeah. No, I love being included in that sort of weird fun little group too. That's been a lot of fun. But let's see, the vault, something I've never shared. Let's see. Oh, okay, here we go. In first grade, so I skipped a grade, like I said, I skipped kindergarten and I went right into first grade. And I was doing the show at the time. And it was public school and it was sort of new in Full House. So, kids were not exactly kind. They were making fun of me or whatever. And I proceeded to pick up my small little plastic chair and throw it across the table at the person who was making fun of me, and got taken to the office. But the principal felt bad for me because I was sort of getting bullied. So they were like, just like, don't do that again, So yeah, I have always had a little bit of I'm really, really cool and like will let things slide until I just won't, and then God help you. So yeah,
Wow.
if there's a small
Spicy.
plastic chair anywhere, I'm throwing it. Yeah, no, but like people don't expect. I'm like, yeah, I just it was this one of the things that I felt so bad about like all through elementary school. Like I had such
Right.
shame over it, and now I'm like, oh my God, I was like getting bullied and I fought back.
That's kind of amazing. I like that you had that spunky side. What about a crazy like fan interaction? Have you ever felt like 'cause some of these fans can be a little? I know you go to these conferences and you're signing
Yeah,
autographs.
I will say as when I was young, one of the strangest experiences well, strange and sort of really awful experiences that I had was on more than one occasion, someone would follow me into the bathroom and hand a piece of paper under the stall. No joke. And I was like,
Okay.
I mean, I was like a kid, like 9, 10, 11, like so weird. Yeah, people, the boundaries are sometimes a little blurry for people, but yeah, I've had the bathroom incidents happen. I've also had someone who poked me and stepped back and went, "Oh my God, you're real," when I was like 12. So that was, yeah, I was like, what?
Huh?
Yeah. So yeah, we it was strange.
Wow. That's really bizarre. That's like, I guess you guys invented poking on Facebook. So
Yeah, right.
you deserve some money.
I do. I'll take a cut of that Facebook, Mr. Zuck. Yeah.
That is so
That's
funny.
awesome.
You crack me up. I want to ask one last thing, and then I'm going to let you go. I promise. And we're having so much fun. We have to get together. I mean, I'm so
Yes.
close to you.
Oh my
so
gosh. Yes, please.
We'll see each other. You're absolutely wonderful. You have given us everything, and you've been so wonderful and just fabulous. But I just want to ask you at the end. With Jeff Lewis Live, you did it. You have such an experience with hosting, being on TV, and being a personality. And I know it was a lot because Jeff did a whole thing about kind of defending you, and the chumps were kind of coming at you. Can you talk just a little bit about, did that catch you off guard? Because you're such a seasoned professional. Like, the
You know
chumps
what?
are
Well,
intense.
one thing I will say is that the first few times I was on, I was like super excited. So, and I have ADHD and I'm a little neurodivergent. So my communication style, I talk and I talk over people, and so does everyone in my family, which I never realized until my husband pointed it out. So like my parents, me, my cast, I grew up in this environment where you're just like, yeah. Oh my God. And then, and I forget that on radio, it's a very different experience when all of your other senses are taken away and you're just listening to something. And so I was cognizant of it, but I definitely, like the first time I was on, and I never read comments, but I read them just because I was like, oh, I've never done the show before. And yeah, a bunch of people were being really shitty. And so I texted Shane, Jeff's assistant, and I said, please let Jeff know I did not mean to monopolize a conversation or take over or anything. Like I wanted to be a good guest. I just got really excited and was having so much fun. Jeff called me and he said, honey, please, I fucking loved you. You're hilarious. Like, fuck them if they're complaining about it. They just have to have something. He said, and often the women hosts and guest hosts on his show get torn apart by other women. It's a really interesting phenomenon. Not specific, not all, but a very large part of it. And so he was like, don't read the comments. Just have fun. And, I've been on a bunch since then, and I've tried to get better at, reining in my day-to-day communication style and being like, oh, radio talk. Okay. Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, you're not the only one. There was a host that was an influencer and she was crying and Jamie Kennedy was comforting her. Like, same thing. They were ripping her to shreds.
Oh, crying.
Yeah, she was crying on air. She was very affected.
Oh, on air, but from the comments?
From the comments, and people were, I guess, like analyzing the way that her voice sounds.
Oh, yeah. I didn't get into all that. I just heard people being like, she talks too much or whatever. I was like, yeah, story of my life. Read my elementary school report cards. I can't shut up. This is not news. So yeah, but I really don't. It's part of what makes me me. My brain works 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm constantly thinking of a stupid joke and something that's funny to say. And that was exactly like Bob Saget. And so, I grew up around people who it was always about the next joke and the next thing, and just and that's kind of part of who I am. But I try to rein it in, chumps. So please calm the fuck down, okay? Like, I'm trying. But no, seriously, I have really enjoyed being on that show, and they've really welcomed me in, and it's been a lot of fun. So
That's
amazing.
fabulous. That's amazing. And I had the luxury of actually seeing Bob Saget live. So really, RIP Bob Saget. A lot of us
Yes.
were
Mhm.
really devastated. So
Yeah.
I know that, it hasn't been easy for you guys as well. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Oh,
you.
miss Bob all
Thank
the
you.
time. And yeah, that was definitely who he was always the stupid comment. And I stepped right into the role. I was like, "Oh, inappropriate comment? Yes, please." So
Yes. He's so good at that. I mean, he talked about Mary-Kate and Ashley. They were in the audience and he said, if they weren't my TV daughters, you know what would happen? So he says what we're
Right.
all thinking. And it's
Right, and you know
funny.
what's funny too is people were like, "Oh, he's obviously a pe," and you're like, "Oh my god, if you knew Bob, if you knew Bob."
Mm,
Like,
sweet
it
man.
was so, oh my god, never in a million years. Like, such a
Oh.
mensch. And so, yeah, it's that was also like one of those things where I just went, "Yeah, I think the internet sucks." Like, I think
Mhm.
people aren't very
Mhm.
kind. So,
Mhm.
It's true.
anyway, just be kind, you guys. Be kind. It, if people come on your page and talk shit, go for it.
Sure.
Don't go searching it out. Don't.
No.
Yeah,
Please don't.
just don't. There's enough.
Please don't.
There's
Yeah,
plenty.
that's a Jodie wisdom. So you need to write a book. So we need a Jodie
I
wisdom's book.
I've actually been thinking about working on my second book because I wrote my first book in 2009, which was a memoir, unsweetened, and it's so not the version of me that I am anymore. I would like to write something different, and I've got a few things rattling around. But yeah, a lot of it's about like just how to not be a dick, Like
I love that.
Mhm.
I love it.
Mhm.
I'm
yeah.
down with it. And
Mhm.
a friend of the pod, Chelsea Devantis, always covers
Yes,
celebrity memoirs. So she might have covered yours, or you need to get covered.
she
So
did,
we'll make
and
sure that happens. Okay, good.
I did her show, and
Awesome.
started texting because her husband was supposed to do one of my comedy shows, one of my
Okay.
family dinner shows, and couldn't do it at the last minute, whatever. But we wound up exchanging numbers, and we were like, "Oh my god, like you're my new bestie." Yeah, she's fucking
She's
great and
wonderful.
hilarious, and actually is someone that I have reached out to and been like, "Okay, so I want to like do this," and like, what do you
Mhm.
think? And was really inspired by her book, which was incredible and raw and honest. So yeah,
Amazing. Amazing. We love to hear that. Jodie, we could keep you forever. You have to come back, but tell everyone where they can follow you on Instagram.
I would love to. You can follow me at Jodie Sweetin on Instagram, or you can check out the How Rude podcast, How Rude Tanneritos, which is a podcast that I host with Andrea Barber, where we are rewatching the original series of Full House because we never watched it. We never watched it growing up, so it's like watching it the first time through for us. And we do a lot of making fun of it and being silly and having a great time. And that is at How Rude Podcast. So yeah, at How Rude Podcast or at Jodie Sweetin, and you can find me there on Instagram. But like, be nice, if you're gonna follow
Just
me,
be
like,
nice.
just don't hate follow me. Like that seems like a waste. Unless you're gonna
Mm.
improve my engagement, in which case, sure, go for it.
If you're gonna hate, follow her, comment on
You're
every
gonna
post.
hate
Yeah,
follow
just
me
comment on everything.
because then I'm gonna be in your face all the time. It'll be like the revenge that I get that you don't even know is coming. So yeah.
That's amazing. And Jodie's also on Jeff Lewis Live as well. So whenever
Yes.
you're on it, we'll make sure everyone catches you.
Yes,
Can you,
absolutely.
as we end the show, can you just give us one How Rude just to finish off?
Absolutely. How rude.
Yay!
I don't
Iconic.
get that
Iconic.
upper how rude, but I try.
No, you did wonderfully. And everyone go follow Jodie and also follow the Vault podcast page and keep staying with us for all the tea. And we've loved having you. It's honestly one of our best episodes. So thank you for being
Thank you.
here.
Oh my God. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that we finally got to do this. It was such a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.